like 2 years, I'm like, you know what? I got some things to say. Oh, you can really grow on this. Oh, it's a Nazi playground now. Never mind.
Basically, I just went live, so I can't really tell
All
you
right.
my secret with my Twitter account. But after we end, I'll tell you the secret with my Twitter account.
No, bad. I'm gonna hold you to that. All right, I'm gonna be hitting live. We're gonna be going live in 5, 4, 3, 2, and what? What's up, guys?
Check it
Thank
out.
you for coming. Thank you for coming back for another episode in my stream. In this series of building a black game studio, right, and talking to as many creators, gamers, mostly specifically black gamers as possible, so we can really see what what is missing from the industry. you know what can be done better, what can be done on our end, and and even just for me, of course, this is a big thing for me about like how can I build an ethically uh done gaming company that for the projects I want to do are gonna have to be AAA. They got to be a certain size for the products I want to do.
Certain
So how can that be
quality.
done ethically, right? So, and I'm really excited to speak to this guest, Endless, right? He's I want to say an anarchist,
Yeah,
right?
like anarcho-communist, I guess you could
Introduce
say.
introduce yourself. I don't want to do you a disservice. Please
Oh, no, no,
introduce
no, no
yourself.
problem. So I'm Endless Cemetery. The main thing I talk about on my platform is kind of just like, black liberation. And so I delve into topics like police abolition, mass incarceration, ethics in labor, and I'm also just kind of a labor history nerd, so I do a lot of that kind of stuff as well. And yeah, I also am just a general all around nerd, so excuse me, you can see like the death metal posters and comic book posters and stuff I got in the background. So, um, yeah, my content is most of the time just kind of us, just vibing, like me gaming or just chatting, smoking or whatever, and just kind of riffing on whatever comes to mind. But when I do like my educational stuff or when I'm trying to do like fundraisers or stuff, I really like reading books live, doing the whole like book club thing, and I really enjoyed just like interviewing people just like you, where um I like to just get a feel and get a vibe for kind of just people's thoughts on things, especially if I feel like they have really insightful things to say.
Well, hopefully, I have something insightful to bring to you. Because
Hell
I mean,
yeah.
liking your streams, watching you, you're really insightful, man. You're really insightful. It's clear you're very
Appreciate
well
you.
obviously. So, like I said, I was very excited to get this chance to speak to you and really just get your as the topics you want to talk about, get your perspective on labor and gaming. I think we all kind of know the big basics of like crunch and
Right.
sexual harassment,
Right.
but I really want to hear your perspective as someone who is so deep in the field of unions and labor rights,
Right.
uh, and to see get your perspective, because of course when you hear a lot of these people talking, a lot of people commentary on what is going on in the industry, they come from a very specific point of view of I'm just a gamer that plays games with no real life experience
Right.
around that. So yeah, so I just wanted to first get like ask you uh basically like what do you think is the most important thing we can do right now in terms of the gaming industry, like in your opinion, like what do you feel is like the most important thing that needs to be tackled?
Um, in terms of like just the average consumer, um, it's it's a lot to ask just because people don't really think too hard generally about and a lot of people, because I've this is something I've said on stream before, is that like a lot of people want to their hobbies are like escapism, so they want to escape the realm of the political and they want gaming and these types of things to be apolitical. But um the as a consumer, I feel like we should be more mindful of how the sausage gets made, so to say. so that you know, we can make more enlightened decisions about the types of organizations we support with our dollars by purchasing their products. But in terms of like from the inside, like from the actual industry, I'm an anarchist, so like I think that like it's probably gonna sound wild, but like I would say that the entire structure just kind of should be thrown out in terms of how these things are made. And when we look to indie games, we can kind of see what the fruits of that would be. But I kind of feel like in terms of the labor process, like you talked about crunch, like I feel like there should be way more democracy in these studios. If we like, ideally, like I'm an anarchist or whatever, so I want to see workers co-ops. I want to see everyone with the same level of skin in the game and the same um how do I say the same level of like getting out what you're putting in. But beyond that or failing that, I feel like there should definitely be way more democracy in how the games get made so that we can avoid stuff like crunch. You could have more equity in, minorities in higher positions in these studios. So you can avoid stuff like, casual racism, sexual harassment, all these types of things that were, headline issues when we were talking about like a lot of the AAA titles. I'm a Mortal Kombat player. I'm actually like one of the best Mortal Kombat 11 like Jax players in the world, and it creates an ethical quandary for me because I know that the game was first of all that they used crunch, like there was a lot of crunch to kind of get the game out the door, but also listening to some of the experiences of the people who are literally traumatized by their work on the game, where the studios like if you're not familiar with Mortal Kombat, it's a game where like the allure of it historically has been its goriness and over the topness in terms of the
Yeah,
blood and violence.
I love Mortal Kombat. Mortal
Me too.
Kombat, Annihilate. No, Mortal Kombat. Yeah, Mortal Kombat Ultimate 3.
Yes.
Sega Genesis.
Yes. I had it on the Super
The
Nintendo.
it still breaks my heart that my mom gave it away, and I don't know if my soul will ever heal from that. So, but
I
yeah, no,
feel it.
I grew up on Mortal Kombat, so no, I absolutely get that ethical quandary where it's like, we want to play these games, we want to, enjoy them, but it's like, when we have our certain principles, when we can't just dive, just give into the escapism because of our principles. It's like, all right, well, how do we um ethically make tie, like weigh
Right.
that up, right? And deal with those tie-ups of like, yo, this game was made under, how do you play Blizzard games still, right? You still
Right.
love WoW,
Activision, yeah.
right? And you're like, yo, this whole company is kind of trash.
Right.
Just needs to be just thrown in the garbage, right? And what's worse is that everyone's favorite games. I wasn't really a Blizzard fan, but StarCraft, World of
Diablo.
Warcraft, Diablo, like all of those were made during their worst years,
Yeah.
right? So you're like, you can't even do like oh well, Kanye stopped making like good music before he even started doing this shit. You know what I mean? I can still like
Exactly,
enjoy
yeah.
College Dropout, right? And you're like, I play World of Warcraft knowing that the Cosby Room was a thing
Right.
the whole
There's
time.
there's also like just the predatory practices towards the consumer as well. Like I
Oh
mentioned
yeah, the
Diablo,
latest
Diablo
Diablo
3.
shit.
Diablo 3, like vanilla Diablo 3 was one of the most anti-consumer games I could ever, with the real money market and things where it's just like the game is literally pay to win first of all, but I don't know if you played that, but the grind on that game when it first came out was like
No, but I was aware.
yeah, oh
I keep
yeah.
track of this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so
I very specifically distinctly remember like, cool, I'm at the end game now. Me and the homies can run all these like quests and stuff to try and get some legendaries. And I very distinctly remember like just being up all night for like 3 nights in a row and not getting a single legendary. And then when I finally got one, it was like a 50 cent legendary. It was just like, I don't know. It was just a wild state of affairs to the point where they had to completely overhaul the game and take that aspect of the game completely out.
Oh yeah, like wasn't it like to get it was like to get all the legendaries or get like this one legendary equipment, it was like $100,000
That too.
to get a certain set. It was like, well, you can grind out till you die, or you could drop, the down payment of a California home.
Right. Because the grind was so real, and that's the case for a lot of the games that I'm hearing that the new Diablo isn't as bad, but like, yeah, with games
I heard
that
that, yeah, but go on, sorry.
I'm sorry, yeah, with games that have that kind of setup, the grind can be really, really real. Just to influence you to just spend exorbitant amounts of money on gear so that you don't have to spend, 48 hours trying to get one piece from a gear set.
Yeah, I mean that's really the egregious part because when we see things like, oh, because I mean I'm not Blizzard, I just said Blizzard, but Overwatch is a
Mhm.
Blizzard game, right? And they dealt with that too, where they were like, oh, the loot system, and when they upgraded it, now you have to like grind to get the skin, and it was like you would hear people complain about it, and I'll even say something about it. And I'll start this here because I want to hear like kind of your perspective on it, where I'm conflicted, right? As someone who wants to make games, someone who's been in the, grew up playing video games, right? I had a Sega Genesis, SNES, right?
Mhm.
I had all the generations since. I love video games to the point where I'm now making video games,
I
right?
knew how to play video
Like,
games before I knew how to read. Like,
right,
which
same,
tells
right?
you
I could probably
something.
ask my parents. I can ask my parents and they probably say the same thing. My mom would be like, "Oh yeah, no," like those are my earliest memories. Earliest memories of like, no, I'm playing the Sega Genesis. So I have like one of the things I do remember is just how the gaming industry has changed, and one of the things that I like to, I would say that one of the things I will, I don't like to be pat myself on the back or like be all egotistical or shit like that. I have a hard time, or whatever. But Betty's point is that that I feel like I have a pretty decent grasp in the fact that I don't look back at things with like rose-colored glasses. That I can look at
Yeah.
things pretty objectively as like how things used to be. Um, so when I hear people complain about how gaming used to be, I'm all like, gaming kind of was always shit. The gaming
Yeah.
industry kind of always sucked,
Right.
and it's gotten a little bit better. It actually used to be really predatory. They found different ways to do it now,
Right.
but I feel
Quarter
like there's
eaters.
way like right, exactly right. But I feel like now like they're conflated. People are conflating different things, right? Because yeah, you run it's like many people that might complain out don't remember quarter eaters, where it's like this thing was you ain't beating it, right? If we were playing House of the Dead,
Right.
they were meant to be like you spending $50 to try to get through
And
this
you know what's
shooter.
funny is one time I spent that exact dollar amount. I spent $50 beating Time Crisis 2 at this local spot that was in Baltimore
Dude,
when I was like 12 years old. Like my dad was
my
fucking pissed
right.
cuz I kept elbowing him like
No, you say your dad was pissed. My dad was the one with his friend to spend $50 to beat House of the Dead 2 in an arcade. Because he's like, I got that grown man money.
Right.
So him and him we're just gonna sit here and beat the game. And it's like, but when you have to like on the arcade, that sounds ridiculous, right? But that's what you needed. That's how hard the games were. So when you hear now that's like, I guess wow, rambling. My point is that like games are one of the few things that haven't really risen with inflation, right?
Yeah, I was going to
They
say that
all the
like
prices $60, and then that's been it for like 20 years,
right,
which is
yeah.
unheard of with any industry.
Oh yeah, I very distinctly remember like for my birthday going to get Perfect Dark on the Nintendo 64 with my dad, and that shit was $55 back then in like 1998 money. So
Right,
it's
and
wild.
and some of these games just sucked. They sucked, and
Yeah,
there's no day one patch.
right.
There's no like, oh, we hear you, let's fix it up. There is
Hmm.
no like, No Man's Sky, where it's like, oh no, we're gonna work for the next 2 years and make it an amazing game. It's
That was
just
always something that was very unique to PC games, and one of the things I loved about PC gaming when I first got into
yeah,
it was the mods and
that is
the
true.
DIY communities and stuff. But like the other thing that I feel like old school gamers like us, we have the perspective on is the fact that we watched this industry come out of a straight up crash around the time that we got into it because there was the video game crash. and then
Mm-hmm.
within a decade become a multi-billion with a B dollar industry with like Modern Warfare 2 and all these other like the rise of the cinematic game coinciding with the rise of paid
Esports.
DLC, esports as well, which I think have kind of always been there if we're being honest. Like, cause I remember,
But the seriousness of like, yo, there's big
oh
money
yeah, big
here.
money, right? Yeah, cause I remember there was always like Doom, like deathmatch tournaments and Counter Strike tournaments and such, but it wasn't to
Donkey
the
Kong, that guy that cheated in Donkey Kong. I mean, like,
yeah,
yeah, there's always been tournaments, but
right. But
like where
there's never
this kind of money, this kind of companies are like, oh yeah, kids are growing up like, I'll be a gamer.
right. The kids
I
in
have a
Korea and
friend's kid
stuff.
that's like, yeah. But go on. Didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
No, no, sorry. I think we're both like really excited. So,
Right, yeah.
but yeah, I was just gonna say like, I feel like that's where a lot of the predatory stuff comes from is because, you know, like Modern Warfare 2 drops, fucking all these games drop that are outpacing like Hollywood summer blockbuster movies. And
Yeah.
so there is just this implicit desire to um you know to squeeze blood from a stone basically. And that's how we end up with
Yeah.
a lot of the predatory practices.
So, but what I guess, yeah, with that being said, I guess my overall point, because I can sometimes get excited and ramble, is the fact that like it's like, how do you feel about things like skins, right? Like, video games that have
Mhm.
skins, right? They don't. It's not like Diablo, where it's like it's very clear to you, pay to win, problem, right?
Right.
Mobile games, problem, but it's like skins. That's something that I've always been kind of like conflicted on, where it's all like I also do 3D modeling, right? I do 3D
Likewise.
model. I do like I'm not good at it. I'm not. I mean, I'm okay. I can do what I need to do, but it's like, I mean, I made the thing right here. These is what I did. You know what you're seeing,
Mhm.
but it is just the idea that it's like, free thing. I need a free thing every season, right? And how
Mhm.
dare you want to be like, charge for this thing? And it's like
I think there's
there is
like
an yeah.
I was gonna say
Go,
like
go.
there's like a right way and a wrong way to do that because I as a 3D like printer 3D modeler and just like a general artist like a musician all that stuff like I think it's cool to work on something and like put it out and be like yo if you want this you can pay for it or whatever but I think that the like loot box model is like extremely
Yeah.
predatory. It's just getting kids addicted to gambling.
I do agree with that. I do agree with the loot box model. In terms of it being predatory.
I think
Um,
that
so
like if you want to have that that's cool but people should be able to just be like I just want to like the grind shouldn't be crazy and you should be able to be like this is the skin I want I'm going to buy it if I want that so on and so forth.
Apex is, and that's why I like Apex. I think
Right.
based on the games that I play, like Apex is the one that does it the best. Call of Duty, I don't like because, well,
Yeah.
they don't do loot boxes. They do a rotating week.
Right.
So if you don't get it this week, you might not see it. You might not see
Yeah,
it,
the
right?
season
And
pass like that shit's predatory too in
right.
my opinion.
And Apex does that a little bit with like special skins, but they're still like, yo, we have like a base layer of like decent skins. Like we have like 20 skins for every character that you can just buy. And when we have events, you can just buy the skins outright.
Right.
You can roll them, right? And you might get extra stuff outside of that, but I I guess my problem is like when, I don't know if you play Apex or have, but
Oh
they have
yeah.
these things called mythic. They have mythics, right?
Mhm.
Or the
The
heirlooms,
heirlooms,
right?
yep.
Right, and
My mod has been grinding for what's it, the teleporting woman. He's been trying to
Wraith,
grind Wraith. Yeah, he's been trying to grind
yeah.
for Wraith's heirloom, like no joke, since the game came out. It's funny, but it's not
He
funny at the same
it's
time.
he needs 500 loot boxes, which at a certain which they've also made updates where you can get it for free.
Yeah,
So he just needs to grind, and they made it to a level where it's like, oh no, people who are really dedicated to the game will reach it. Um,
Hunt
so
Showdown is
but
kind of the
it
same
one
way, where you can
yeah.
if you want a skin, you can buy it for like $5 on Steam or whatever. But then like right now, there's an event And that's why I'm trying to hurry up and grind it, is because the character
Yeah.
skin is just like Spider-Punk, where it's like, holy shit, I'm him, bro. It's like this dude that's got
Right.
he looks actually pretty similar to your avatar, where he's got like, you know, the that Killmonger cut that became popular that we all got, and just like, yeah.
No, you know what? I'm mad because if I ever do a face review, I can go back to my Instagram. I had that shit before Killmonger. When that came out, like there were people were like, "Yo, Kill," I was like, "No, I'm him." Then he looked at me and took the
Right.
hair. I've been rocking this hair since like high school, like since I got out of like right out of college.
I can't fake. I definitely saw that, and I was like, because I had already, my house burned down, so I was like, you know, just impulsive, like I'll just do something.
Yeah,
And
you
I
gotta do something.
cut the sides
Take
off,
control.
and then I had long locks still, but just the sides cut. And then when that came out, I'm like, it'd be cool if I've had long hair for like 10 years now. Go back to seeing what it's like without it. So.
But yeah, so yeah, that was just kind of because my biggest thing about it is that when you hear people complain about it, you're also like, yo, like this game is made by real people that need their salaries paid. Like we could argue all day about compensation for those people versus compensation for this for the executives and the
Right.
shareholders and shit like that. Like that all day, argue that all day, right? You know, like higher wages for the people, but the idea that like, hey, I play this game for free. I play this free game and I also want free content.
Right.
And then when you decide to charge for some content, we're like, why are you charging for that? I want that too. And to me, it's a little entitled. It's like, yo, how are they going to pay for this game?
Right.
Who
And it's like people want that, but then when there's ads in the game, they're mad. You know what I mean?
Exactly, right? Like look at NBA, like the sports games. They're just like, oh,
UFC, yeah. They just throw straight up
we're
commercials
just going
in the
for
game.
money. Exactly. So,
which was a wild situation because it's like you're paying $60 for a game and you can't play because a commercial starts playing in between rounds. That was a wild state of affairs, but
it's I've never played sports games, but I heard about it. My friends do, and this was before I was like in like making this stuff, right? Making games and really in the weeds of understanding how much they cost to maintain. Because here's the real thing to me. Most games, like most people don't. I think we've been spoiled. I want to say quote unquote spoiled in this live service shit.
mm-hmm.
In the fact that it's like there. You remember old school gamers? There was a point in time where a game would come out, and then that was it.
Yep.
That was it. That was just the game. If it sold well, they maybe got a second one to do better. If it didn't, that company dissolved.
Right.
Probably. Right. It very rarely do we ever get the chance to like have something where it's like, yo, we release a game and didn't like No Man's Sky didn't do well, but now is doing amazing because we spent 2 years working on it.
And a lot of those studios folded.
Feedback.
I was gonna say a lot of those studios folded, even if they were decent studios, just because they got gobbled up by all these conglomerates. Like I'm thinking of like Acclaim, THQ, Cyanosis, like studios that put out some of my favorite like games from when I was a kid that I have like the fondest childhood memories of. That just kind of got absorbed, and those those IPs are just kind of lost to time now.
I mean, I never thought we'd get another Saints Row game, and then we get it, and I'm all like, I kind of wish we never got a Saints Row game.
Right. That's me with because that's kind of why I want to get into it too. Because it's like I would absolutely love a new Extreme G, but I know how it's gonna get done, so I'm like, maybe don't.
Maybe not. No, maybe not. Like, have you ever played Midnight Club?
Yes, I remember Midnight Club. Yes.
Like this first episode of this stream, I was with Queso, and that's just what I talked about most of it: Saints Row and Midnight Club, and how those are great examples of how when the culture is cared about, like in the examples of when the culture is cared about and kind of like not really. Right. And Midnight Club 3 was dub edition. They're like, hey, black people seem to really fuck with this game. Let's make it like hip hoppy. Let's work with the hip hop car people. And it became I love it. It's one of my favorite games, if not my favorite game.
Right.
In Saints Row, where it was like they cared ish, but not that much. And then when you look at the creators, you're like, oh, these white guys? Right. And then when they make Saints Row again, you're like, yeah, that's why it's stupid now. Because not only were there white guys doing it, maybe they cared a little bit. Now they're just old men.
Right. I think of there was a game. It was a Ubisoft game. I forget what it was called, but it was just like it was like so cringe with how they portrayed the like quote unquote gangsters or whatever in the game.
Yeah. Sorry, my stream's
It's all good.
acting up, so trying to reduce the buffer. But yeah, like was it like Mafia or something?
My roommate just played through the whole trilogy of Mafia and was kind of astonished at how different Mafia 3 was from the first game. And this is even like the remaster.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, but that's too expected when it's
Right.
like, when you have these movies like they're made. Like I've had to educate my mom where I was like, video. He's like, yeah, video. I was like, no, they're like art. He's like, you like Pixar, right? He's like, yeah, you think Pixar is art, right? Now imagine you could play Toy Story. Imagine if someone like walked in the theater, hands you a controller, and you're like, play Woody. That's a video game. It's a lot of
Right.
work, right? And I feel like people forget that. Which is why, things like crunch happen, where it's like, I think more than anything, I feel like that is a combination of people's expectations, right? Where God forbid you have to delay the game, right? Now people are mad,
Right. The
you know,
shareholders are upset.
right? Both that's what I'm saying. Both of them, shareholders and people, the audience, right? Because look at Cyberpunk 2077. They kept trying to like push it back,
Mhm.
and people kept getting mad and mad, and they're like, "All right, we'll put it out."
One thing
And now
I
they're like, "How dare
distinctly
you put this out?"
the thing that I always bring up just because of how fucking mad this game made me because of how this IP is like one of my favorites in terms of
Yeah, right.
movies and media, but like Aliens Colonial Marines, like I was embarrassed. Like I cringe when I think about it because like I remember going in the day before the game came out in the GameStop being like, "Is there a midnight release?" All this stuff, like how super hype I was about it. Then it was trash because they didn't even debug the code in the game. I think there was a so there was a thing where like the aliens would just straight up not really attack you. They would crawl all over the walls and ceiling and stuff, but they would never actually hit you, so you could just pick them off. And there was like one line of code that someone they data mined the game and deleted that line, and it made the AI actually function properly. And there was times where I would spawn in with no gun in my hands. It was just a mess. And then come to find out, they poured all the money from that game from that studio into Borderlands 2, and it was just like it's just lots of shady labor practices.
Shady financial shit too.
Yeah,
Like
for sure.
it's where my kind of, because that's one, as I said, like wanting to build a AAA company, and not in the terms of like, oh, I want to build a company that makes millions of dollars. It's more of like, no, I want to make a God of War, but
Yo,
that
Katie, thank you for
takes.
the raid.
Hold on, I can't hear you. You
Sorry,
might
I
be.
was someone just raided in, so I was just
Oh,
yeah, sorry.
no worries.
Katie, thanks for the raid. I appreciate you. But yeah, what were you saying? I'm sorry.
No, I was saying like that's kind of where my ethical quandary comes in, right? Where someone that like I want to make a AAA company, right? Not in the terms of like I want to make $1 million, and it's like no,
Right.
the games I want to make
The
want to be of certain
quality.
quality. I want to make a God of War, right? I want to make the stories on the level of Uncharted 4,
This
right?
is like my perspective on it is that when you say AAA, it's like typically what's referred to by when you talk about a game being AAA is the budget. But like fucking amazing games come out with small budgets all the time. I'm thinking
Oh
specifically of
yeah,
like what's it
uh,
called?
Hell,
Axiom Verge.
Hell's Blade, Hell's Blade's
Hell's Blade.
God, I don't even have to, yeah, Hell's Blade. But that one was really but they would consider that a double A game.
Hmm.
But if
I
have you played it?
I haven't played it
Because it's
yet.
like it is. But the problem with those games, it's amazing, it looks great, but it is short. It is like
Yeah.
a third, maybe even a fifth of God of War.
I think
Right? So it's
that
because of the thing where it's like when you want something like that big, you need such a large
team.
staff, like
You
such as
either,
team.
I feel like you either need a crazy amount of time or like a huge team for that. And Axiom Verge is like one guy doing the soundtrack and the sprites and everything. So
Right.
I feel like if, like I was saying earlier, if you have the talent that's going to make your game like AAA or whatever, and you know you could do, even if you don't do a straight up workers co-op, which would be my recommendation just from all the research that we have
Yeah.
on how successful co-ops are and so on and so forth. And you know, as a person who's going to constantly beat the dead horse of the whole African American solidarity thing, you know what I mean, us as black people in America and how capitalism doesn't
Yeah.
really work for us. But like I feel like if you, as long as there's no one being exploited in the studio, everyone's contributing, we're never sacrificing the mental health
Health.
or
Yeah.
the just physical health in general, just like we're not sacrificing our people so we can put a game out and make money off of it, you know what I mean?
No, yeah, and the big that's a big reason, putting it out there. That's the reason why I created LucidKitty, because I spent years working in tech and in marketing, getting, usually the only black guy in the room, often being ignored for like the one thing I was hired to do.
Right.
Where I was like, you brought me in here to do marketing, but you won't listen to my marketing you won't listen to me. Right. So I'm like, all right, so I'm gonna have to go off and, do my own thing. Because and try to provide that kind of space where other artists, because I was saying this in my stream at Farah, where one thing that always stuck with me is reading a story about how, like, and this may or may not be true, who knows, about how Kanye's mom bought him a computer, his first computer, to make music because he wanted to make video game music. Right. And to me, and this was all way before, of course, his final mental breakdown.
Right.
But which of course, I'm not even saying I'm supporting it or like excusing his, rhetoric or anything, but anyways, that's not the point of the stream.
Right.
But I remember that sticking to me around, especially around the time where he was making a video game about his mother, which everyone clowned and everyone was making fun of the fact that, like, oh, look at Kanye's video game, making a video game, right? As we do, stay in our lanes, dribble a basketball, shit. But when you think about the fact that that is something that seemed to be like Kanye always wanted to do, that as a child he wanted to make video games or be part of that be part of that creation process. But it's like, well, what is a kid from Chicago, a black kid from Chicago, how is he gonna get into that? What is he gonna do? It was easier for him to get into hip hop and dominate hip hop than it was to get into video games.
Right.
Right. He had to dominate a whole other field, hip hop, just to be like, all right, well, I'll fund my own. Like where was he gonna go to school? Where was he gonna, like, who was he gonna mentor under?
Learn to code, bro.
So, like, huh?
So learn to code, bro.
Right, but he's what, 20 years older than us? I mean, actually, I'm not even gonna say how. Like, you're 30.
I'm 30. I'm 33.
33. Okay, I'm sorry. I you seem older for your age, so I wanted to be like, he's. I wanted to say he's my age, but he seems smart. He's like, maybe he's wise, so he might be like, maybe he's closer to like FD's age. But no, all right, yeah. So yeah, you're my age, right? We're the same age. Yep. So he's like 10, almost 20 years on us.
Right.
Right. So even back then, it's like, learn to code where? Like, I couldn't even start learning to code until maybe the last 5-10 years because the information was at my hands. But I've been 3D modeling since I was 15 years old. My stuff was trash because there was nothing for me to learn off of.
Yeah.
Now, like, me learning now is like, dude, these kids have so much at their fingertips to learn. Like,
I got lucky just because I had at least one person in my life, like in my real life, in my personal life, who was really, really into coding and into like graphic design and stuff. So that's how I picked up Photoshop, because it was more or less the same with me. My code was ass and still is, but I've been, making whatever I could think of, rendering whatever I could think of in Photoshop since I was 14, which translated well, not super well, but translated into what I do, stuff I can do in like 3D printing and with Blender and stuff now. Yeah. But it's just like you're saying, the resources just weren't there. Like,
Right.
I would
So
say
and
even
by
as
the time
recently
we're
as like 2013, before like the 2010s, the resources were just not there for you to actually, if you wanted to commit, you would have had to go to like ITT Tech or something like that, and then
That's what
gamble
I
on
tried to do. I
actually.
tried to go to
I did the
dude.
same
I
thing.
almost
Yeah,
went into debt over that.
I
Right when
did.
I went to like my mom was sitting there. It was like, oh yeah, I'm seeing the facility. I was going for film. I was like, ooh. They
You
open
did
up
the.
that pamphlet.
Yep.
I look at the price and I'm like, so I guess community college is what's it's gonna be.
I said fuck it and took the plunge. I went to ITT Tech for like 3 years and never got a degree, and it was crazy because I
I
accrued
almost
like
went to
20.
art institute.
Word. I accrued like 25
Yeah.
bands of fucking student loan debt. But excuse me, shout out to Joe Brandon. He hooked me up and that shit got discharged. So it was
Ooh,
such a
nice.
wild feeling. And I kind of wish I had paid on it because they apparently gave you the money you paid on it back. But I knew from the very beginning, like I'm not on some real black people shit. Like, nah, I'm not paying for this.
Yeah, no, like nah, like you deny too many black people college
Hmm.
and homes after the the GI Bill shit. Nah, you paying for this.
Hmm.
Um, no,
Got to
but
get it
that
back in blood.
exactly. So, but what I'm saying is that like at 15, for when we can just barely get our hands, like I had to pirate 3ds Max to
Mm.
start learning,
And that's wild because that shit went the way of the dodo. I have a big ass 3ds Max book from when I went to ITT too, which is crazy.
right. And it's like but it was the thing. It was that, but now
Like,
Blender is kind of coming up there,
yeah,
right?
which is
But by
crazy
that
because
time,
of how
Kanye,
expensive
yep, yep,
3D. Bro, I was gonna say it's crazy that that was the industry standard because of how expensive 3ds Max was. And now a free program kind of took it over.
exactly, right. It just in popularity, right? Like, because
Mhm.
it had like I still like the interface, but the capabilities are just like it's not worth the cost.
Right.
But what I was trying to say is that like so when we were at like 15, 14, kind of just getting our hands on Photoshop, cracked versions, learning them
Yep.
stuff, he's already, Kanye's already making music, right? He's already like,
Yep.
Kanye, right?
Hmm.
So it's
Back when
like at this
Kanye was
point, it's like
Kanye.
exactly, right? So at this point there was no real like, oh, let me, he's already in his field doing his thing. Um so it's like where would like little 14-year-old Kanye would have like, I want to, I love Sonic the Hedgehog. I want to make, video game music. It's like, well, good luck,
Right. And
right?
not to get too
Do it
deep
on your
into,
own. Dude, why don't you know?
I was gonna say not to get
Right?
too
Yeah.
deep into the Kanye thing too, but like even in
Yeah.
that field, he was slept on. Like Jay-Z wasn't fuck with him. Everybody was kind of just like,
Exactly, right?
just make beats, bro. Don't rap. Just make beats. For me, don't
For,
go off and do your own thing. Just kind of be my
mhm.
producer.
And to me, so that's why, at least, like I said before all this, I used to tell people, I'm like, can you be mad at someone like that for being as egotistical as he is?
Right. Because
That
he
he's like,
always knew
yo,
he was the shit. Just nobody
he's
believed
like,
him.
I'm the shit, and you're like, no, you ain't. He's like, I'm the shit, no, you ain't. What you gonna say now? Like, again, I love that speech. He's like, the lot have said, what would I gonna do if I didn't win? I
Guess
guess
we'll
we
never
ain't never
know.
gonna find out. Anyways, yeah. So yeah, it's not too much. You make this a Kanye stream, but anyways, but the point is that yeah. So that kind of stuck with me, where it was all like, yeah, like where would it like me? Like I love video games. Where would I have learned? I had to try to go to university, to find a school, and even more like God forbid I wanted to go to like a not P God, I want to go to HBCU, which I didn't
Right.
even know were a thing till I graduated because I'm a son of the immigrants,
Oh,
so I didn't
okay.
even know those were like a thing.
My parents really, really
Um,
wanted me to go to HBCU, but I was on my fly in the milk shit, so I was just like smoking weed and doing acid and just fucking
I would have
around.
went. I would have went if my parents even knew they like my parents. My parents got the degrees in military, right? So it's
Knowing
like it
what I know
really was.
now, if I
Yeah.
know then what I know now, I would have leaped at the opportunity to go to HBCU. But
Oh, I would, dude. Especially if you told me like, oh, there are black nerds there, I would be like,
oh
bet
yeah,
done.
right.
Like, but I didn't even know they were a thing. I had no idea. I was looking at like I wanted to go to school for film, and there were
Mm.
so few options. And even then, like when I did the program I did get into, it was just so outdated because it was very clear looking back at my stuff now that I was on that YouTube tip, that my
Yeah.
videos were YouTube videos. And they annoyed the shit out of my teacher because he didn't understand. He didn't understand like the humor. Everyone's laughing, but he didn't get it. Like, no, this is a film class. And I'm like making YouTube sketches out of like the material provided. not realizing because I wasn't a YouTuber back. Well, I mean, I've always had a YouTube channel since the
Right.
beginning, but I wasn't like that. Like,
Producing
oh, let
content.
me. Right, I wasn't producing content, but it was always there. That was my style of editing. Um, so I basically the point of Lucid was just me like I want to make that company, right? I even speaking to Phil Lamar, right?
Mm,
He confirmed with me that was like, yeah, no, there is no black gaming company at the
right.
top that's like, it's a guy that's been all over them. He's like, nope, there's no one trying to do, there's no one doing what you're trying to do, at least at this level.
And
Right? Like
cause
there's
it,
indie people, there's indie like companies, but it's like I'm trying to compete with Rockstar, Insomniac. Yell at
right.
Insomniac for that trash ass music they put into
Hell
Miles
yeah.
Morales.
Lawson, I fuck
Woo.
yeah. I see it. Shout out to I forget what his first name is, but Lawson that invented the cartridge. But yeah, and it kind of goes into because I've heard, FD's talked about it, a bunch of people talked about it, where like we have to start valuing our own shit, right? So where even if it starts off and it's not super triple A, you have to be able to fuck with the vision. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So I mean, and that's the one thing I've definitely been doing is like I have like Xbox Game Pass. So like when
Mhm.
they had like the of course Black History Month games made, I tried to find games that were actually made by black people, not just like games like with a black character.
Right.
And of course they're few and far in between, but that's something I've been really trying to do hard is really trying to connect and support other black developers.
And those types of games were so few and far between as well. Like the most prominent one I can think of, at least that's one of my favorites, was Prototype 2. But there's not really a whole lot of other games that have like black lead protagonists or like black development teams.
I love that game. I love Prototype too. Uh like memories.
Right.
Uh but have you played Spider-Man Miles Morales?
I played the original Spider-Man, but I didn't play Miles Morales.
All right, so it's like it's hard to put into uh I guess to explain while like without hearing it, like you would have to hear it. But I don't want to play it on I don't want to play the video game because they copyright claimed it. So I don't want to get that on this one or on your Twitch channel.
Right on.
But basically you spent a whole in every stream is probably gonna hear me repeat this story. But you spent like the side mission collecting like basically samples from New York, right? Pigeons, trains, stuff like that, people. And then like you go in and then, apparently Aaron Davis, your uncle, mixes it all together and is like, yo, here's you're like, yo, you collected all this music, here's a beat, you know what I mean?
That's pretty
And I'm
cool.
like, ah, shit, cool. It was trash. It was like I used to believe that. I used to say like, yo, music is just, what the feeling of like sounds put together rhythmically, and the feeling it gives you. Like anything could be music. And then I heard this, and I was like, that's not music. That's just sounds. That just sounds like I was like, who did this? Like you can look at my like I have like old Twitter threads where I went in, right? Like yes, like Alicia, like Spider-Man, Miles Morales is such a good game, but it is a good game if you don't account for the fact that he is black. Like especially
Right.
when you're looking at these latest Miles, movies with Miles, and you're like, okay, there is a stark difference with how he is treated, how his blackness and Hispanic umness is treated,
Right.
right? And it felt so much like a footnote in his own game,
Right.
right? Whereas like we get some Spanish, we get a little Spanglish,
Right. Yeah.
right? Between him and his mother, right? They're black people, right? They mention BLM, but for blackness, it's here's this hip hop song that we're gonna make, but really it's like you guys really couldn't get like an actual artist. Like I
Right.
have like 3 artists that I can throw up that could have just taken those sounds and made it into something amazing.
And shout out to Aston Mac because on one of the black media panels that we did last year, he talked about how like this will be common where it's like a black character, but like air quotes black. So it's basically just like a palette swapped white man, where it's like because they're like not racialized and all these different things, they're black. Like you're saying, their blackness is a footnote. It's like they might as well not even be black.
Right? Like you could have switched them in with any kind of race.
Right.
And it would have kind of fit. Right? It would have been fine, right? But it didn't really dive into that. And I give the benefit of the doubt. Only leeway I give them is that this was basically Spider-Man 1.5.
Yeah.
So I didn't expect them to completely revamp their entire team for what is kind of a glorified DLC.
I was just about to say that because I remember this was supposed to be like and I feel like and I remember when that shit happened, exactly what was going to happen with the gaming industry when this happened. When the extra 6 hours or whatever dropped for Mass Effect, I think that was the first console DLC, because the standard up until that point was expansion packs on the PC. So like Diablo 2, for example, you bought Diablo 2, you ran through it, you beat it. Then you get Legion of Doom, that the engine might be the same, but it fundamentally changes the game in that there's more, just way more content to the point that it might as well be its own separate game. And that kind of got used for ill in the console industry, where now we're just gonna put out like that, where it's just like, could probably not, maybe not a hot fix, but like this could have been an update, but it's just like Overwatch 2.
Yeah.
Or like this could have been a hot fix, but we're just gonna make people pay another $60 for it, even though Overwatch 2 is free. But
yeah, like the only thing I'll say with Miles Morales is that they put in a lot of work where it does feel like a sequel.
Right. And I'm not even necessarily saying it's a bad thing, because it's an amazing
Yeah.
game. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, no, it's fine. I really like it. But to me, like I said, it's one of those where like I'm not gonna come down too hard on you guys, because I don't expect you to completely change your team makeout for a game, for like 1.5 in a game.
Right.
But you could have at least maybe brought another writer into the room, right? Another black writer, at least one more black person in the writing staff. I don't see, any black person's name listed on the writing staff. Why did you have to use the same composer? Couldn't you have composed by him and, so-and-so? Right? Jay Black, get Tyler Crit, somebody with, flavor. You know what I mean? Someone with some
seasoning.
Right? Someone that does hip hop, right? Like the music just felt like Spider-Man's music, but with some drum beats on it. It was like, is that all hip hop is to you, white composer man? Just white music with some drum beats on it. Like you could even give it some 808s.
And it's also, for me, a missed opportunity to not just like you were saying, like you could definitely get like a whole ass like artist on to make it like a collab, but we had to use the same team.
Right, the exact same team. And I think that's my problem, where and I think that kind of rubbed me the wrong way when I first was kind of talking about this, was I was actually talking about this with another creator, not creator, but a developer, a black developer. And I don't want to call him out because he's doing his thing, and this was between me and him, you know what I mean, on Twitter or whatever, and this was way back in the day. But he was basically like defending the game because I guess he really loved it. And I was kind of calling it out for the whole, because it was around the same time that I think it was Encanto came out. And then when you look at and they're like, look, the writing staff of Encanto, and you're like, why is the staff so white?
Right.
It was a movie that was supposed to be extremely Spanish, or Spanish or Hispanic, but it was completely white, like development staff, like top, like story staff, and you're like, what is happening?
Naturally.
Right? You're like, why are these people getting all the awards for our stories? Right? For what is supposed to be our stories. And not just that, but we also know that many of these studios, even though they are making, stories that are featuring more people of color, they are not hiring more people of color.
Exactly. which is another thing on its own of just like the ethics of the labor practices of the gaming industry, where it's like it's just typical American stuff where like you're perfectly content to make money off of us, but you don't actually want us involved so that we can gain our own kind of foothold, make a name for ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, there's even things to say like, I mean, we got to see how they do it with number three, but I don't want to, and I don't want to spoil things. But there is questions about like after the initial geeking of Spider-Punk's coming down, some of the very more leftists in our field are like, all right, but let's not forget that this is still like Sony and like Disney Marvel, and that they're never gonna let this anti-fascist go too far.
And that's honestly why
Right.
I've waited to like I'm waiting to to watch a screener or like something that's like I'm one of those people. I'm like fuck Sony, they're not getting a dime out of me. I'm gonna watch their shit for free. But also that conversation was had about when Black Panther dropped too, where it's like because of the power structure, shit can only be so revolutionary. Case in point, the secondary protagonist of a movie called Black Panther was a fucking CIA agent. Like
Yeah. Which they learned the second time where like he's not so much he's a side note. He's a very, very side character.
right.
He hardly gets a mention this time around.
Yeah, a white CIA agent, no less. Yeah.
Exactly. Which I mean, they could even go with like, let's go with the ethical quandaries of like a black person working for the system, trying to quote unquote help us, right? And we're like,
Mhm.
what are the ethical quandaries? It's like, well, no, it's just a white guy,
Right.
and kind of just falls back into that kind of white savior, um, story where it's like, oh,
Yep.
here's this white guy that has to defend the black country from the conniving CIA.
Mm-hmm. A patriarchal viewpoint.
Exactly. Um, is there any other points? Like, I feel like we've been hopping around. Is there any other thing like you wanted to like zero in on? Because I feel like we feel like last bit we've been jumping around a bit.
We've been jumping around, but I feel like we kind of covered. Maybe if it wasn't super linearly, I think we covered like all the stuff that I find interesting, or rather that like I think is important to talk about in the whole gaming thing. Because like just doing this, what we're doing right now, is in and of itself important. Because like we only have so much power to mitigate like crunch and that sort of stuff, but we can at least talk about, like I talk about all the time, like yeah, it's fucked up. The developers from Mortal Kombat 11 were traumatized. Like they probably shouldn't have made them watch like hangings and shit like that. I feel like that type of stuff is not
Yeah,
necessary to make a good game. You know what I mean?
no, that is always something that I think about as the game gets more and more like violent and detailed and gory. It's like, well, how like who is studying the anatomy of people getting ripped apart
Right.
to accurately make this look so good?
There
I'm
was
enjoying the hell out of it, but I can't not think about that.
exactly. There was a guy. There was a specific interview that I read where someone was talking about how they started seeing people hanging in their dreams for like weeks after that, and I'm like, that's really fucked up. Like,
And I think, I guess like something like that is conflicting. Not conflicting like it's fucked up, but in a conflicting sense towards all like, did you guys try to get on therapy after that? Or like was therapy not even after that, but was therapy like mandated? Like, all right, you're watching these things, but also, we have psychiatrists on standby for you to talk to at any time, right? Where it's like I agree with you, where that might not necessarily to, make like, good content, but when it comes to a game like Mortal Kombat, it's all like the shit is literally just about ripping people apart.
right.
And it's
But
one of those where it's all like we can either like have it real or have it be like, yeah, we'll accept that it's not gonna be real because there's only so much realness someone can go through.
But honestly,
Um
it was at its best. I feel like when it wasn't like we were talking about UMK3 earlier. Like, remember you do a fatality on someone, they'd explode. There'd be like 4 fucking rib cages, like 8 skulls. Like that's what they're talking about in my chat right now. Like it was mad funny, where it was just like hilarious. Like it was gory, yeah, because it was blood and skeletons and shit. But like you're blowing this one person up,
I
and like 8 skulls are flying out of them. Like it was just
I and I I think part of that goes back to our nostalgia thing.
True.
It's funny to us now. Remember, Mortal Kombat started the rating system.
It did.
There's a reason. There's the reason for the rating system is Mortal
MSRB or
Kombat.
ESRB. I'm sorry.
Right? Yeah. Is that the fact is that parents everywhere were like, no. Because this thing was just also just out in arcade. You could just be like a 12-year-old watch by, and you know, we gotta look back at these sometimes old movies and we're like, man, this shit these graphics are so goofy, and we think like, oh, but then we like when you read stories about like, oh, people were having heart attacks for some of like these horror movies that were revolutionary, that we look back, we're like, ah, that's cheesy. But for them, this is the first time they've ever seen it. So even for us, like, you know, 7 Saws, now we gotta get crazy.
Right.
7
That's very
Saws,
true.
Purges. You know, we gotta get mad crazy now about how we kill people.
Yeah, that's really true. I didn't even really think about that.
You know, and I feel like, you know, I feel like if you look at MK4, the first 3D MK, I feel like that's where you kind of see where that line draws, where it's like the goofy, like you have to go into it like as a Tommy Wiseau movie. Otherwise, if you're trying to like, if we keep that up, like I said, that goofy 8 ribs, that might take you out of it. Because I'm going to admit, and that's why I said, is that conflicted. I don't even play Mortal Kombat lately that much because I don't like the Injustice fighting system. Yeah, but as a fan, weird. I'm gonna sit there and watch the fatalities. Yeah. I love the art. I love the direction of them. I love the artistry in them.
That was me.
And I do wonder, like, can we get it this well without some reference point that these artists have to draw from? And it's like, and if that's the case, what do? Do we just not have Mortal Kombat anymore? Or do we just accept that, like, you know, some of it just might not be good because, you know, we don't want to traumatize people? Or do we do our best to mitigate the trauma that they deal with, right? Because it does me think, like, if you're working for NetherRealm, that's also like, and I don't want to be like victim blaming because I don't ever want anything to come.
Oh yeah.
But it's like, if you're working for NetherRealm, you kind of have, especially at this point, you have to kind of expect that you're going to be working on a Mortal Kombat game.
Right.
Right. You know, that's kind of a given that, like, hey, you're going to be, unless you're like, I want to work for NetherRealm and really, really hope they're doing another Injustice.
Right.
Right. So, and it is, I think it would be different if they made a whole lot of different style of games. So it becomes a thing where it's like, how much, like, what do we do? Do we require them to not put their employees through that, or have that as a requirement? Do we have that voluntarily? Do we have it? Do we, you know, do they still let them do what they do as directions, as directors? But also make sure that they have like mental health staff, taking care of their employees and such like that. It's, you know, to me, I think that's a question like where unions would come into, right?
Yeah, agreed.
Where like Queso had brought up, she's been bringing up. So I haven't had you pulled up. You know, she's been working diligently pulling up stuff.
Yeah, this has been really cool.
But yeah, talking about, she brought up, you know, the controversy with the Mortal Kombat 11. But can you pull up the page you're talking about, the Gamers Union?
I did see that briefly.
Might have been one of your first ones. Yeah, Game Workers Unite.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So, you know, I think these are kind of like the main answer that we would have to
in the current system, for sure. Yeah,
right.
Because it's like, for me, it's like there's like steps. You know what I mean? You unionize, you have your union, and then you kind of move that, if you can, into a workers' co-op. But yeah, I totally support the unionization. Obviously I don't support the fucking FOP, but all our unions are cool. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. Developers definitely need one.
In fact, you know, I did want. That's one thing I was excited to bring you on. Is like, I wanted to hear more of your thoughts on unions, because I'm a part of a union technically. I don't know if they kicked me out because I haven't worked in a while, but I'm part of like a stagehand union, IATSE.
Okay.
So but now, that all that whatever union work or strikes, whatever were done, were before my time. And if I believe there might have been a recent strike, or there are at least some disputes, but I haven't done a concert or a festival in maybe 5 years. Definitely before COVID. Definitely not since COVID.
Right.
So I haven't kept up with the union, but I've more been I've been passively supportive in terms of unions, as opposed to actively like, well, let me
Likewise.
learn about it, right? I wanted to hear, a little bit more of your thoughts on it, because you're much more well read on these things than I am.
I don't know if I'd necessarily say that, but like my feel is kind of that, like, yeah, there should be because like I said earlier, the gaming industry became a like billion-dollar industry, so there needs to be it needs to be more democratic. The people who are doing all that hard labor need to be a larger part of the conversation when it comes to procurement of these games. So like the people you call your code monkeys, you know what I mean? Like the people who write the engines for the game, the people who spend hours upon hours 3D modeling, coming up with assets and stuff for the game. Like these are the people that are probably, they have the most thankless positions underneath of like artistic directors and so on and so forth in these development like studios and such. But the games literally can't get made without them. So it's just like
Like,
they're
how do we get the entire team on the stage to accept the award?
right, exactly. That's always been my thing. Like that's I'm doing a I'm about to drop, it's not really related, I'm about to drop a YouTube video now about the Thomas Viaduct, which is it's the second oldest stone bridge still in use by CSX, still in use with trains running on it in the world. And whenever you read about it or look it up, the only person you hear about it is the man who designed it, when there were dozens of people who like got crushed and like lived in shanty towns and stuff. The people that actually built that shit with their hands, you never really know anything about them. And it's kind of the same thing here, where we applaud these the people that we see as the masterminds of these games, you know what I mean, like your Randy Pitchfords and Peter Molyneux's and
the Todd Howard or whatever.
your Todd Howards and Gabe Newells and such, right? But there are people underneath
I would say
them.
Gabe is because actually, you know what? That's a good. I mean, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was going to be like Gabe Newell, because I was like, he apparently did Minecraft by himself, but I was like, but he also kind of did that off the back of someone who already built the original code for another game.
I thought so.
Right? Who we don't ever talk about.
I think I didn't know he did Minecraft. I knew Gabe Newell was the dude from Steam. I thought he did Half-Life and Half-Life 2.
Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong person.
There's a different person.
So can you look up creator of Minecraft?
Yeah. But but anyway, I digressed. There's people underneath of these people who are the ones that are actually, building these games with their bare hands, putting in the hours and the effort to make these things work in a way that's satisfactory to us as the consumer.
That's
Notch. That's what his name. Yeah, Notch.
Right. All right. Never mind. Yeah. Gabe Newell. Yes, that's the creator of Steam. But yeah, the people that work on Steam, keep it running. That that basically holds up the indie. Much of the gaming industry, PC gaming industry. You can take that down, Queso. Who cares about Notch? He sucks.
He does suck.
But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. No, I just
cool.
got confused real quick.
No, that's all good. But yeah, that's all I was saying, is that like, even if we don't get to a point where these aren't the most prominent names and figures in the space, there has to be a much stronger voice for the people underneath them that actually put the time and the effort in, away from their families and outside their comfort zones, to make these games and make them in a way that we enjoy. There's got to be representation for them, and they have to have their rights and their freedoms protected. And I feel like a union is the only way to really accomplish that in the current system, because you can't really do a whole lot if you're not collectively bargaining, you know what I mean? And I feel like if even outside of just like wages and these like billions of dollars of profits, and the only thing that you might get is like a writing credit or like a spot in the credits in the game, is like there's at least got to be a way for um these workers to not work under bullshit conditions.
No, I in fact, like, that made me think about like how would you do a co-op? Because I've heard about it. I think they sound cool,
Right.
but I don't have much education on like how a co-op would work, especially a co-op of, as I said, like this side. It's not like making Stardew Valley where you're like you only need a team of like 5 people. As I said, like
Right.
I want, I want to make, put out there, so if anyone does it, or if DC tries to do it without me, I'll fight them. I don't know, just leave me alone, please. I'm trying to make a static game that rivals the success of Spider-Man and God of War.
Right. Right on.
Right, where it's like it has that like that storytelling element of
That
God of War,
massive feel.
right? But also is like the way that like across into the Spider-Verse and like Miles Morales is like made Miles a staple. I want that kind of game where like you have to play this game. You cannot deny it.
Right.
If you're racist, you just missing out.
Right.
Right.
Basically.
And it brings them into conversation. But yeah, but that requires a lot of people money. Like one thing I don't want to do is deal with investment. So it's
Right.
if I have to
Yeah.
like bootstrap it as hard as like I'll do what I got to do, but it's one of those like how at the end of the day it's still gonna require something where it's like if we bootstrap it, we're still gonna at some point have to bootstrap millions of dollars
Right. And
to
that,
hire hundreds of people.
for me,
Right.
that's the shittiest part, is like the seed money. And if I'm thinking of like the Chesapeake Marine and Dry Docking Company, they had someone that like invested $1 million in them and they got their ROI. But like for me, it would just be like the basic like just like kindergarten, I guess, view of it, where it's like we're gonna all come together to make this piece of art, right? Just for the love, basically. Like we have the goal to make this massive game that's gonna be this massive cultural like cornerstone. And it might succeed, it might not succeed, but we're doing it together. And revenue would be all towards basically keeping the lights on and like keeping the roof functioning. That would be the like primary function when you get to like whatever revenue comes back in. And then after that, you just kind of split everything down the middle with like inside of reason, where like if you have someone that's really busting their ass and pulling late nights and stuff to debug the game or get assets.
Yeah, cause that's something that's very like like not even a devalue, but there's things like, well, you want to have people that are the the debuggers, the Q&A testers.
Right.
But I wouldn't say that the Q&A testers are doing nearly as, not saying what they're not doing is important, because it very is, but without the game director or the game writers, there is no game for them to test, right?
Right,
Or the
exactly.
head programmers, there, and game designers, like there's no game for the Q&Ers to test. So even though they get part of it, it's like how does one work out like how much those guys should get, right? Where it's like it's
Right.
fair, you guys get your fair amount for it, but also to compensate the people that without them this would make or break, right? This
Right.
doesn't get made without them.
Yeah, I think that would
So
be one of those things that you work out and like you legit just like vote on amongst everybody, because if you fuck up and you're like, nah, we're just gonna take your money, then they're gonna leave and you're not gonna be able to make any more money. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But yeah, I feel like that's kind of at least when I'm thinking of that type of stuff, because we had there's a black owned like ice cream company that is a workers co-op that have been a workers co-op for a while, called Taharka Brothers here in Baltimore, and they're like my favorite fucking ice cream. They have the best ice cream, not even just because it's called Taharka Brothers. Um and yep, there it is, the real news. There's a Sun article from Baltimore right underneath it. but they were one of the few businesses to survive the pandemic. I used to serve their ice cream. I was a barista at this ice cream and coffee
Oh,
shop
nice.
back in like 2018, I want to say 2017, 2018. And yeah, there's another a bunch of places that were part of, like, I guess not a bunch, but this place was a co-op, and then there was another place that was kind of part of the arts district, a place called Joe Squared Pizza, that they used to do live music and stuff too. They became a co-op
Okay.
over the pandemic, and I feel like there's just like a lot of research like into the economics of co-ops that makes them hardy towards outside factors like, you know, recessions and those sorts of things, but also just they have happier workers, you know what I mean, because they're
Yeah.
better
I mean, yeah, if
represented.
everyone's and not represented, but also just in terms of investment, where it's like, I can see the feeling of like no matter I clock in, clock out,
Right.
right? It doesn't matter how well or not well I do the game, as long as I do just enough to not get fired.
Right.
But if the better I do at my job, that possibility that, as they try to tell you, you'll start your own business, right? Where it's like
Yep.
the better you do what better you do, right? Theoretically, the more you should profit, which means that, that should be that self-motivation, right? It's a lot of creators' motivation, where it's why we will work ourselves to death.
Hmm.
Where it's like, well, if the more I work, the better my work is, the more money I should theoretically make,
Right.
as opposed to just clock in, clock out, and someone else makes more money based on how, no matter how much, on my better work, right? Um, or if they lose money for some reason, I get blamed regardless of how much we're working, right?
Right.
Um, so yeah, that idea of skin in the game.
And I feel like that's
But yeah,
kind
no,
of the final the final logical conclusion of forming a union. You know what I mean? Is so that we can make our workplace more democratic.
yeah, that actually makes sense. Like how do you feel about like a company being part of a union formation, or do you feel like that's like too sus? Like if
If
someone
I won't lie,
like if
because
like
go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was just saying like the owner, or like like they're very pro union, and they want to encourage their employees to be like, yo, right? Where it's like maybe a co-op, like they weren't ready for a co-op, they were like, yo, I want to make sure everyone's like unionized under me, so like
Yeah,
you guys can collectively bargain against me,
that's when we get
right?
into
How do you
shady
feel?
territory. Because like I had a friend who we're still friends, but he used to work for the UPS and was dealing with the Teamsters and trying to instigate like wildcat strikes at these UPS at this one UPS facility because the leadership in the union were essentially about to
Like conglomerating with them.
no, not conglomerating, but it's just like they weren't moving in the interests of all of the workers. You know what I mean? They were comfortable
Mm.
and they saw a comfortable setup. So there were people at the bottom who were not okay with it. And the way that it was set up is like you need a 51% majority or whatever. And they were on like 49 or something absurd like that. So it was one of those power struggle things. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure the team, because this was back in 27, this was definitely pre-pandemic. I want to say 2017, 2018. But I'm pretty sure the Teamsters are about to go on strike right now related to the stuff that was happening back then. Because I used to help him stick flyers on people's cars and stuff. He's a big he likes to try to get into like infiltrate companies and get people at the bottom to unionize. That's kind of his thing.
No, I respect that. I respect that. No, because as I said, like me, I do want to do this. I want to do this as ethically as possible, but it's also not like I have a whole lot of experience,
Yeah, he's a
not only
salter.
running a company, uh,
He's
running,
a salter. Yeah, he's into salting.
a giant company, right? And it's like, how can right now the games I'm making, of course, are all done by me. I don't use AI or none of that shit. I don't even really contract out, right? Because like how like they will say online, oh, use Fiverr. It's like, well, now I'm just exploiting someone else's labor elsewhere. You know what I mean?
Right.
Try to get somebody cheap. Um, so it becomes a thing where it's like really trying to figure out how to like just basically plainly like how to do this as ethically as possible. Um I guess part of my feeling, and I guess not like I guess the only best word I can come up with is hesitation
Yeah.
in terms of the co-op is the fact of I'm an artist. I am an artist.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Like I wouldn't want to say I'm a visionary or any of that shit, but it's like when it comes to my things, like I am deeply like connected to these stories that I want to tell, right?
For
Even when it
sure.
comes to static, right? Like I am deeply connected to the story I want to tell when it comes to static. Um, so the idea that it's like, well, I'll just give up control to like everyone who's a part of it that might not be on like the same wavelength as me. Like I might respect their skills, but their idea might not be on the same wavelength as me.
Oh, I
Is
mean,
like,
there
well,
would. I was
all
gonna.
this,
Oh, sorry. I
it
was
becomes like
gonna.
a conflicted thing. Yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say there would still be different roles in the company. You know what I mean? You would
yeah,
still have like QA and art directors and producers and that sort of thing. It's just that you wouldn't have the like absurd difference in I guess like pay or like it would be more democratic only in the sense that the people at the bottom would have more of a say in the direction of the company as a whole, but you would still have artistic directors and that sort of thing of people who come in and say, this is the type of game we're going to make, this is my vision for it, this is how we're going to make it happen. And yeah, I feel like those two things definitely can exist together. Because I'm the same way. I'm also an artist, and that's kind of why I started doing music dolo. Is like there's a certain magic that you can get when you create things with other people, but if you want to do something very very specific, which is something is a way that I feel a lot, it's definitely at the very least much faster to just kind of be a dictator and do your own thing in that regard. But I have to use the restroom really quick. I'll be right back. Sorry.
no worries, no worries. Hey, Queso, you mind getting on the mic?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
All right. Yeah, yeah. So, how do you feel? How do you feel about any thoughts while we wait for him to come back?
I'm gonna be very honest. The dog was barking, so I had to get up for a second. Um, of course, very ill opportune time. Um, but as far as like co-opting and unionizing, I do love the idea of a co-op. I've actually kind of unrelated, but kind of related. I've been following this person on TikTok. They started this business, but it is a completely co-opted business. Everyone is an equal member. There's only like 10 employees, but they all work 28 hours a week. If someone is slacking, someone else picks up the work, but they all make equal shares of money. They split everything equally. Uh, it's I'm really simplifying, but it sounds so beautiful, and I know like it's not going to be applicable to every job
That was
industry
awful.
because like
I was
for
trying to go to
something
fuck
like
to sleep and
game
that
developing,
shade.
I don't have the expertise to do what you do, but I do have, the things that I've studied before. So I could apply something somewhere, but I know that there's going to be like lacking a lot from me versus you because you have a lot more industry experience in that than I would. So I don't know if co-oping is
Right.
something that can
Maybe.
happen with every aspect of that industry, but
Like you
I
said,
do love the idea. So
No,
from what I
I mean,
heard,
yeah,
you
yeah. I
know,
mean, but I mean, I mean, you might not have heard him say, but that co-ops
yeah,
don't
if we're gonna do
necessarily
like an
mean that uh everyone like has like I would guess would say
we're
like
gonna do like
equal
a
hands in the pot in terms of or equal hands to turn
right.
every gear, right? Everyone's still doing their job, but it's more about like everyone has skin in the game, um,
Mhm.
right? So it's like and everyone has more control over
All right, sorry, I was
like
talking to my
how they're
roommate.
gonna work, their hours and stuff, like what they're gonna do. Hold on, what's up?
I'm back. I was talking to my roommate for a second. We were talking. There was
No
this.
worries.
I don't know what this was. There was like a festival or something that was in our neighborhood, that it went till 11, and we were just talking about how like we're not on like no gentrification type shit, no Karen energy. We weren't about to like call the cops or whatever. But like it was wild that it went till like as late as it did just because of how mid it was. Like there was like some weird like acoustic like The Killers covers and stuff, and he was just like, it wouldn't have been so bad if they actually had like a dope like mariachi band or something out there, like something good. But like it sounded like straight up karaoke. That's what I thought it was at first. But yeah,
You're like, yo, just will open up the window. Yo, shut the fuck up.
basically. I was trying to fucking sleep. I got to get up at 5 a.m. for work.
Right. But no, yeah. So me and Queso were just talking while you're gone. I was just catching her up about like what we're talking about and getting their thoughts about you know, co-ops and you know, or like you know what they thought about it, and they were talking about how they follow someone who has a co-op.
Oh,
But
wow.
yeah, no, I was, but yeah, I was really like I said, enjoying your thoughts and viewpoints on that because
Was.
that idea of like I said that everyone kind of has skin in the game is something that appeals to me. But I do wonder like how that works in terms of like hiring and firing. Like if you are part of the co-op, but then like you get fired, like how does that work? Is there like is it survivor rules?
Yeah, low key, where it's like we all kind of vote like, is this person pulling their weight? If the answer is no, then they figure out a new place for them, and maybe no place for them at all. You know what I mean? But
we pull out the torch,
the pitchfork.
So not to interrupt John, but
Yeah, that's fine.
that I was following, they really do like, well, they'll just get together and be like, hey, bud, you're not pulling your weight. What's going on?
Right.
And then it really does depend on just having that honesty. Like, hey, something's going on at home, or I'm having health issues, or something along those lines. Or I'm just not fucking sorry, I'm not feeling it anymore, you know? Because there are,
Right.
it's surprisingly, there'll be people that's like, I'm not feeling it anymore. And it was a jewelry company, but some people be like, I wanna go explore something else, which blows my mind, but whatever. But they will have that conversation, and but you go into the company knowing like, hey, if you're not pulling your weight, we are gonna have these serious conversations. So I kind of like that idea. It is full on accountability for everybody. But sorry, I'll leave y'all. Go ahead.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your input. I mean, like your thoughts on. I mean, that's pretty much. I guess that was what you were gonna say. Endless.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. So, let me check. All right, yeah, we've been running for about an hour and a half. Yeah, I don't want to keep you up. I keep you all night.
No, you're fine. We're just riffing. I'm having a good time.
No, I am too. This is, you know, I really, enjoy the back and forth. I enjoy, hearing your perspective on, like I said, labor rights,
Likewise.
how to improve, labor and stuff like that. As I said, I've been someone that's kind of always been a freelancer and would kind of bounce around in industries. So
I feel it.
I've never really been in an industry long where I'm like, oh, I need to be part of this union, or I need like this is where I'm gonna like settle down. I've always been like, well, this is where I'm working. Oh, you guys don't want me anymore? Bye.
For me,
I already have like 3 other jobs.
Yeah, I was gonna say like for me, it's not so much that it's like it's the same thing as like capitalism versus like socialism or communism, I guess. Where I'm like, I'm walking around and I'm like, it really sucks that in terms of like the floor, like the worst possible outcome is so fucking bad, right? And same deal with me where like I've had a bunch of jobs, like an absolute fucking crap ton of jobs. I was a garbage man, I was a fucking barista, I was a delivery driver, I was a pizza driver, I was an Uber driver.
Dude, I worked in laser tag. I worked in like the last Q-Czar in America.
My first job was actually GameStop. So it's like,
right?
For me, it's just like, it sucks that the floor of the experience of working for these companies is being so expendable. And I got to the point where it's like, excuse me, I would rather have and maybe this is privilege speaking, but like I would rather have a more stringent interview process, like a more difficult interview process, if it meant that I was guaranteed to have a certain floor of experience for whatever job it is, no matter what job it is. And that's just kind of how I feel about unions and stuff, and like the IWW and stuff, and like it sucks that the system is like so predatory, and that's the thing that I see is like the main avenue to combat it, short of just like straight up revolution. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I mean, can you expand on that a little bit about, you said like the base level of like a more stringent interview process? Can you expand on
Yeah.
that idea a little bit?
So like if you, because when you're joining, I'm sure you know, like when you're joining a union, or if you're joining like a workers co-op or something, there's kind of like a process where they're trying to get to know like you, like holistically.
I'm gonna be honest. The union I was part of, IATSE, I don't even remember like there must be a process. I was just because I worked for them. I worked for this stagehand company, journeyman company, and
maybe I'm thinking more of joining a co-op than joining a union, because
yeah,
joining labor
maybe.
unions is pretty easy. Like thinking of the IWW.
I think I was just automatically like I was just getting paperwork, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
but yeah, so maybe yeah, but I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go on.
Oh no. You were helping me clarify a thought. But yeah, it's like it should be, just because the federal government fails us so miserably when it comes to these things, right? The federal minimum wage is still like $7.50 an hour or something absolutely absurd like that. And there's so many corners that people can, just as a, working as a like a physical laborer, doing my job as a freight handler, as a materials handler, like there's so much shit that gets let slide because OSHA can't be everywhere all at once, right? And you could call them, but that's assuming they actually come and do anything.
Well, they have the budget to.
Right, yeah. But it's just like it sucks that there's no, like, these places aren't democratic, because the other thing is like there's this YouTube short I saw the other day that was fucking hilarious because of how relevant it was for me in my current job situation, but just like how often I've seen it, to where the director comes in, he says, all right guys, we hired this firm for like $50,000 to determine how long you can use your gloves until they wear out, right? And the workers are like, why did you spend $50,000 to do something that we could have told you? And they're like, all right, so we've also determined that gloves last for 2 weeks, and we know a lot of y'all are working for 12 hours, but this study was only based on 8 hours, so you're only going to get a week's worth of gloves. And just the workers just being like, why wouldn't it be less expensive if you just like gave us more gloves? You know what I mean? And this is the type of stuff that people do, like where we're trying to come up with all of these metrics and so on and so forth to just not cut corners, but like squeeze right as like get blood from a stone, like eliminate expenses in as many ways as we can perceive. And it's like it sucks that as a worker, like a person at the bottom who is shouldering the weight of the shit that actually needs to get done in the company, you don't really have a say in that process. Like for me at my current job,
Yeah, I hear you. Sorry.
yeah, no, you're fine. My current job is there's material that they make, so I have to source like the materials that they need to make this particular product, and planning and so on. They have all these ideas for how we have to do this stuff, and like none of the people who actually work in the warehouse with us are the ones that come up with these, cadences and quotas and stuff. So it just
I absolutely no. I absolutely get. I think that's relevant to just about many industries. I mean, hell, that was how I kind of left my last position, where they hired me on for marketing. I'm like the marketing guy. There's like just no marketing team. It's just me and one SEO dude, right? But he doesn't really do marketing. He does SEO. So, and I'm looking back. I'm like, okay, they do video. They were doing YouTube stuff for a while, right? And they had like a little following. They were doing fine. What do you know? I've been doing YouTube for years. This is my specialty. This is what I went to school for, do film and stuff, right? I've been doing this for business for a while. This is one of the reasons why I try to work for your company, because I noticed that you guys do. You used to, but you haven't in a while. Why don't I? And I try to get my boss to be like, yo, let me start them back up, right? You don't have to be part of it. I could just get someone else to host them, right? Because my manager used to host them, or ex-manager used to host them. And he just had excuse after excuse, like, no, it's like takes too much time, blah, blah, blah. And I'm all like, all right, well, he's like, just do what you're doing, do, what the last guy showed me. I was like, okay, whatever. So I'm doing that newsletters and shit. And I decided to, like, you know what? Watch this. I start collecting data on the before I came all the way up to, just to be like, all right, so you see this sliding scale, right? See this line about how it goes down, and when we stop doing videos, well, you guys stop doing videos, and we should probably do videos. So he wouldn't let me do it. I kept collecting it for years. For like 2 years, I collected stuff. Right before New Year's, like basically right before Christmas, they want to talk to me, talking about letting me go. I'm already looking for another job, because I was trying to get like another gig before that, and they could see me on the computer, because the companies will look at your back end and see that I was already like basically planning the LucidKitty, and I was already building it. And he tries to let me go, and he tries to blame me for the marketing beat going down. And I'm all like, sure, but I told you that over 2 years ago that if we didn't do marketing or didn't do video, that all this would go into that they were just going to see a downward spiral. And all they can say is, yeah, that's true. And overall story was just how, like, relating to yours, about how these, like, they don't want to listen, right? How they don't want to listen to people that are actually doing the job. It's a way to kind of inflate their importance about it. Because he said no to the whole video thing because he didn't want to be the host. So because he didn't like the idea of him having to do anything, he didn't want to do it. Turns out they didn't like the fact that I finished most of my work within 20 hours of the week, right? So half of my day was done. And they're like, well, you don't do extra work. I tried. You know how much time I would spend doing video?
Right.
But even when the one time you guys let me do video, he let me spend 45 minutes on it. On a whole video. And I was all like, and it was like, put it out. And then when it was like subpar, they're like, I was like, what do you want?
Right. What were you expecting?
Right.
It's kind of the same thing now, where like a bunch of mistakes are getting made, and it's like, you have us working for 12 hours. What do you really expect to happen?
I see. I know that's a problem with the nursing industry and the medical industry, where people are working these, and this was even before COVID, where they work these extreme hours, and that's where mistakes happen.
Yep.
All right, and they keep screaming like, "Yo, make us work less hours," and the people determining the hours they work are people who basically work 9 to 5s.
Yep. Or don't even work in the office at all. They work remotely.
Exactly. They're working in a boardroom. They're meeting once a week.
Yeah.
For example, so for your situation, like, do you like, is there any like a course of action you guys can take, like within your union? Is this like a union fight with it, or is just like, well, sucks to suck?
I think it's kind of a sucks to suck thing, because I'm not even really an employee of this company. I'm a contractor, so it's like,
oof.
Yeah, my ability to do anything is very limited, and I can like try to influence other people who are in leadership positions to organize in a specific way, but it's still, because of how tentative, they do a very good job of making it seem like your job is always at risk, I guess. Just because of how many and in fairness, it's because of how many regulations there are at this gig, so that the FDA doesn't shut it down and all this other shit. But like, they do a very good job of playing the Big Brother game, where there's like millions of cameras everywhere. And I feel like if the U word got dropped, or they caught a whiff of anything like that happening, because this particular company, I feel like this place would be ripe for that, just because of how hard the people in the warehouse work. But I feel like they would probably, at least from my experience, just in the 3 months I've been working there, they probably just get everybody the fuck out of there and try to get a bunch of temps in there to do the job.
Yeah, and I would say like if you're like in Florida, or I don't want to get into like bash Florida stuff, but if you're like in Florida where they're losing immigrants and losing people, there might be some kind of collective power where it's like you could fire us, but who are you gonna hire?
Mm-hmm.
Right? But I don't know the situation in Baltimore, but like the employee pool situation.
The thing that's fucked up is that the people who hire or the people who run these companies are never cognizant of that. They don't understand, because these jobs are considered quote unquote low skilled labor, right? They're under the impression that they could just get anybody to do it. But like Fade Runner is my mod, one of my best friends in here. He's the one that taught me how to fucking whip the forklift. Like, he'll tell you, I'll tell you personally, like, there are certain jobs in this country that are considered quote unquote low skill, that are low wage labor, that you cannot get just anybody to do. These types of jobs require a certain type of person to do them just to begin with, but then the level of training to get to a certain level of skill or talent is just, it's, I don't know. I feel like it's just a way to be able to pay people as little as possible. But like, yeah, me personally, just because of the certifications I have and the regulations that I have, I would assert that I'm pretty irreplaceable. But I'm sure that they would spare no expense to replace me if I raised enough of a fuss.
Oh yeah, no. I learned that because shit, I had. Oh no, like I remember I was working at a busboy, and
That's a tough gig.
you know this what. Oh God, and it was a breakfast place too. Like it was only open for breakfast. Ugh. It was the Sunday. It was the Sunday gig it was the Sunday place to go after church. So I was like,
oh God,
right? Exactly. So I was just like, I ain't working Sunday. Don't do it to me. But there was this guy. He's like, all I remember was just this white dude, right? And he liked the diligence that I was working, right? I was like, I wouldn't say I was like I'm all cheerful smile, but I'm like, I'm not sulking and angry. I'm vibing, because he didn't know I was high. So I'm just vibing, like, doing my job diligently, right? And he's like, yo, I love your work. It was that movie shit. I love your work ethic. Here's my card. Go wire. You can do things and blah 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 blah. I was like, all right, cool. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, bet. I was like in my early 20s. So I go and it's like basically it was. I was getting hired to work in a temp agency that was going to place me with airplane, like molding parts, like an airplane,
okay.
like a ceramics parts place or something. Like I think it was like, but basically it was all I know. It was I was going to be working for like a factory, making like I think it was ceramics or like maybe like high metal steel or something. High metal, high aluminum. Right, I'm just saying words, but but I remember sitting in this room, like going over this seminar, and then being like, there's a lot of safety warnings, and I'm high during this. Oh no, I was not high. Because it was only I had been detoxing for like a week, so I drank the fake. I drank the thing to hopefully like fake cleanse me and shit.
Yeah,
so I'm all like,
niacin and all that.
Right, so I'm sitting here. So now I remember thinking there, but like I'm like kind of. So I'm on edge. Like I'm not high, so I'm not chill. And I'm thinking like, so y'all want me to do like something dangerous? Like someone can get hurt. I gotta pay attention. No. Or it was like I peed in the cup and everything. I was like, I don't even care about my results. Right. I was like, I'm not doing this. Or it's like, get someone that's gonna be responsible for this, but it ain't gonna be me. Uh, right. And this one, and like I was a busboy, so if anything, this might have been one of you consider those low wage, low skill jobs where like anyone could do it. He pulled a busboy, a black busboy, with my hair. It wasn't like I was clean shaven or respectability politics or anything.
Right.
It was like he's just like, hey yo, kid, you seem to have good work ethic. Good work ethic. Why don't you work for this? Make airplane parts or some shit. I'm like, ugh. Someone may lose a hand if you're not paying attention. I may lose a hand if someone's not paying attention. No, ain't happening.
Yeah, it was it's definitely a balancing act of like coming in there, especially when I was working with Fade Runner. I'm sorry, bro, you probably knew this, but like I would be coming in there absolutely cheeched. Absolutely fucking cheeched. Trying to whip that forklift, but he's in there with people that are like drunk and shit on the fucking forklift. So
yeah, no, dude, in the stage working in Journeyman, these concerts, these fuckers are like on the forklift asleep. That's why we usually have like try to have four available. So in case one of them like showed up drunk, we'll just like sit them off to the side and use someone else. Because especially the guys that were certified to be the forklifts, because there weren't many of them. Most of them were either alcoholics or were like not drinking because it was working at the time.
That's wild.
But we'll be drinking as soon as they go home.
There was a whole thing at my spot because someone found a fucking beer can in one of the tracks. Because you're not supposed to have any food or drink in the warehouse at all. Someone found fucking beer cans in the dumpster. So,
oof.
It's wild.
No, we have to be careful about that kind of stuff because, like, if someone gets hurt on the gig, we all have to get drug tested. So that's honestly the biggest thing that stops everyone from being like super careful. That if you get hurt, everyone gets drug tested.
Right.
And you're like, that happened, and we are all on drugs. Like, you expect us to run this industry and not be on drugs? I'm sorry, we're up till 2:00 in the morning.
My friend who taught me a little bit how to code would always joke about that in the Prohibition days back in like 2013. It's like, you know why Russia and them, while they have such better hackers than the United States, it's because the FBI doesn't allow you to work for them if you smoke weed.
Right. Which is changing now.
Right.
They recently it's starting to change where they're like, okay, well, as long as you don't have a record,
right,
we'll accept weed. Actually, if you have a record, what's the record? You hacked into someplace big? You know what? We'll take you.
Yeah,
there's no way, like, I'm sure you get it, like, as a coder as well. Like, your mind is just running, like, you constantly, right? I remember, like, I'm riding to go see Spider-Man, and Queso's looking at me, and he's like, "What are you thinking about, like, the game?" And I'm just like, "Mm-hmm." He's like, "Your mind just does not stop running, does it?" And I was like, "No." All right, and it's like it is just nonstop.
If you're just that kind of person, whether it's like code or like music, for me it's music. I always have a tune in my head, so.
I wish I was better with music. I did play, like, I played music. I was quote unquote a musician, right? I had my my instruments, but music was never one of those muses, or I guess one of those talents where I was like, here, let me pick this up, and just compose some shit, right? I could follow along, teach me some shit, but I try to get into music, I try to get into hip hop, and I was like, this ain't it.
It's not. It's definitely. It requires a little bit of work, but yeah, it's definitely not a thing that you can just kind of. There are very specific, like, genius people who can kind of just jump in and do their thing, but it's definitely like a labor of love.
Yeah, but I feel like it's something that you have to, like, want to do. I feel like it has to have that soul, because I have, like,
what up,
I would say,
Bellamy?
especially young me had the talent for it. I played a few instruments, but you couldn't. Going to practice was a chore for me. It's the practice there, right? Like, so it's like you could force me to get it, I'll learn, but I'm
self-taught. I hated practice.
Right. So it's like I just maybe now, like, as an adult now, I'm like, maybe I want to pick up the bass. I kind of want to pick up the bass now. See how I do. See if I still got it. Right. But it's still not enough of a muse where I have a bass in my current home right now that I'm just looking at it, I'm like, it's on the wall. I could play you, but I'm not. Right? So it's like it's not within me. Well, you can't get me to not be working on a model or working on one of my projects, right? Working on the game and stuff. Uh like those are the things that really drive me. Or in the terms like you said, a tune in your head. For me, it's film. There's always like a story being built in my mind. There's always like, man, this scene would be amazing. Yeah, that'd be a great scene. Like I'm constantly trying to like construct like the perfect movies and TV shows in my mind so that one day when I can put those out.
Put your fucking hands up then.
Create those.
Yeah, and some of the tools that are coming out now, like I follow, I like to see the new Unreal Engine stuff, like 5.2 with like the procedurally generated foliage and stuff like that. It's really fucking amazing.
It looks so crazy. But that's part of the whole. I need a team. I can't do that. I try to. I'm a little like, ooh, this is cool. This is cool. No, I can't. It's like I start getting overwhelmed. It's like there's too many things going on. I was like, so I was like, hey, environment guy, do it. Whatever you need to do, get it done. Here's money. Throw it at their face. Send your kid to college. Just get it done. You know what I mean? It's like, here's some healthcare. All the healthcare.
I'll scoop you from BWY. Like, we could trade the hands.
I just want to make sure that like, that was always the thing that kind of held me back in the day when I was younger, when I wanted to make film. I didn't have that team of people that wanted to be like, yeah, let me make YouTube videos with you, right? Yeah. Let me be a part of this with you. It was kind of like, hey, you guys want to do this with me? Yeah. Day of. So you guys showing up? No? Okay. Got it. Right. So it's like, it becomes very, and I'm a behind as you see with my avatar, I'm a behind the camera guy. Right. So I'm not the actor. I'm not the musician. I'm the one that's like, here, let me set up so the perfect story can happen.
I feel that.
Let me have the talent do their shit. But yeah, no, this is a great chat. It's been running a little bit long.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I think I'm gonna hop into bio. We definitely gotta do this again sometime. Yeah. I know you were talking about you want to do a big panel. I'm definitely down for that if you do that too.
Yes, dude, go see Spider-Punk so we can have you ready for that. I'm trying to get everybody for that.
I'll be ready for it. I will be ready for it.
It's not Spider-Punk. It might as well be his movie. It's right. Spider-Punk. It's now Spider-Punk. It's now the Spider-Punk movie. So thank you. I really appreciate your time. Appreciate you giving me your time. Endless.
Hell yeah, right? Likewise.
It was an amazing stream, an amazing time. For those of you that watch, make sure you check out Endless Cemetery on Twitch and on YouTube.
Y'all make sure you subscribe to LucidKitty.
Thank you very much. I'm going to post for the fans listening on his Twitch. I post my link below. Yeah. And I just want to say thank you guys for listening. Thank you very much, Endless. And you guys all have a great night.
Thanks, you too. Right on. Let's hop in the bayou. They've been comparing you to Spider-Punk for like 3 days now. I am him, bro. I'm literally him. Like, I posted pictures of me when I was like a senior in high school and like right after I graduated, and except for the piercings, like I looked exactly fucking like him. But now it's bayou time. We're gonna hop on the bayou. We're gonna make some cowpokes. Yee their last haul. You know what I mean? We're gonna get the me skin. I'll show you all the me skin. I have to fucking race like a piss horse though, so I'll be right back. I have to piss really quick. Damn. Can only be one IRL Hobie. Lil Bill, it's got to be a triple a handicap match, or like a triple threat match. Me, you, and Lil Bill. Change. Rowdiest niggas from the 3 rowdiest Northeast cities? Facts, though. Big facts, though. Lil Bill looks like he got hands. He looks like he's unfuckwittable a little bit. It looks like he got hands. Nice, Ellie. Yeah, I'm trying to grind out these last little quests or whatever for my fucking, so I can get the skin. What up, Fade? You wanna hop in this? Oh, you're not on yet? Bet. Yeah, just let me know. Let me see who can play with Borgish Morg. You told him on Twitter I said we all got a box? Bet. Bet. I'm like high key trying to like make my rounds for real, cause I went up to New York and I hung out with shout out to the Paradigm Shift. He bought me fucking dinner. I went out and hung out with him for a minute. He's a cool ass, down ass dude. I'm just trying to fucking link up with the other cool gay black people in my phone. You know what I mean, Jelly Bean? Try to hang out with the gay people and the black people inside my phone. Give me some curry, bet. That reminds me. Hold up. Let me see if I can find this meme. Oh, here we go. Oh, please work. Oh, man. I gotta find one that actually works.
What's your mom doing? My Indian friend. Cooking curry is wild. Cooking curry is crazy. What's your mom doing? My Indian friend. Cooking curry is wild. Cooking curry is crazy.
Cooking curry. Cooking curry. You're Japanese, so you're shit Japanese. Curry, don't get it twisted. Oh, okay. I feel like, I don't know. I actually haven't tried Japanese curry. I fuck with Indian curry. Shout out to Bink Princess. She always tries to cook me and say I'm not from the South because I'm in Maryland. But like, my family is originally from fucking Mississippi and Kentucky and shit. So like, I fuck with spicy food heavy. Like, I really fuck with like Indian curry. That shit is delish. Ben cooked me because I said I don't like grits because I don't like putting sugar on my grits. She was like, why you putting unseasoned sugar on your fucking grits? It's supposed to be brown sugar. Oh, I fuck with salt on the grits. You put white sugar on your grits? I fuck with like a little pinch of white sugar on my grits. Mostly I fuck with salt on my grits. Honestly, if we're keeping it a bean, like to keep it a stack, I don't really eat grits like just by themselves. Like I fuck with grits like combined with like scrambled eggs and cheese. And I really don't even like, it's one of those things where like normally I just enjoy just scrambled eggs, but like if it's gonna be a whole like slop, then yeah, it's gotta be the fucking home fries with the grits, with the eggs, with the cheese, like a shredded cheese all together. Some real sloppy morning breakfast shit. Give me a call. I have done enough bunny hopping in my life to revoke my black card many fucking times over. My takes on black breakfast foods are the least of my black card revocationary fucking actions and takes. Shout out Dave Mira, PP. I dated a bitch. Her father told me point blank, no, my father is gonna kill you. I was just like, all right, whatever. Thought I heard someone here. Yep, did. What the fuck? What the fuck? I'm gonna just do quick play. I eat sunflower seeds because I'm ignorant. Shout out Dave Mayer. Learn your tribe sided with the Confederacy. That fucking sucks. I understand why though. I'll say I understand why, but yeah, that does suck. I have ancestors. Oh, I have one ancestor that fought on the side of the Confederacy, as in like an actual black person. He wasn't. When saying he fought, it's probably not accurate as well. But yeah, I had an ancestor that was in the Confederate Army. What up, Magic? That sucks. What up, Bernard? Night's not too bad. I'm about to raid out though, I think. I'm getting kinda tired. Yeah, I'm gonna raid out and end. I'm kinda fucked up. A little sick. I'm gonna raid YBE. I might be on the bayou later. We'll see. But thanks for watching, y'all. I'll catch you all tomorrow. I'm off tomorrow, so I'll be live tomorrow, assuming I'm not sick. See y'all tomorrow.